when I use certain types of terms, briefly, my experience is that we have a kind of dimension of reality that is, in a sense, you could say it's the absolute, or the ground of being reality, in all caps, and that's something that is the very nature of everything. It both is the very nature of all of creation, all of manifest universe, and it transcends that in ways that are incapable of the mind to comprehend or categorize or name. So I usually use words like Buddha nature. Sometimes I call that God, but that's, God's a tricky word because there's so many interpretations of what that means. So it's not very precise. So I try to use other words like the Tao, Brahman, Buddha nature. They all refer to this more primordial level of reality. So that's the primordial ground, the absolute. But within the dimension of the conceivable and that which can be experienced, there is an aspect of reality that is struggling, that is ignorant. We call that samsara, to use the Hindu and Buddhist terms sometimes. But there's another dimension that is awakened, that's wise, that's liberated, that's realized, that's loving and at peace. And so that's enlightenment. So there's enlightenment and samsara. These are things that we can identify within. They're made of the same material. Both arise out of the same ground of the Tao, the absolute. And so within that reality of the enlightened dimension of manifestation, where there's wisdom, where the manifest world has beings that understand its true nature, understand the truth, understand reality, and manifest love and peace as a result of that and as an expression of it. There are also presences that each of us can realize that, then we become part of that. So there's the universal kind of just truth of that reality, enlightenment, but there's beings that are personified. Each of us can awaken. And there's one being that is the universal, eternal, archetypal expression of enlightenment. And that is the primordial Buddha, the universal Christ. It's semantics. People can sometimes define words in different ways. The way I'm using these words, when I say sometimes I use the word logos to refer to that. Sometimes I use it more specifically. So that's a little different. But the universal Christ, the primordial or Adi Buddha. Adi means original or universal, the one Buddha. And that being is, in a sense, the sum total of all enlightened beings. It's the personification of the totality of the spirit of enlightenment in the universe. And it's difficult to relate to that being. It's transcendental. I mean, it transcends even time. It's all enlightenment in the past and the future, in countless possible universes. It's just a staggeringly vast being. So you can tune into it and experience that universal quality of it, but it's not going to talk to you. That dimension of its nature is transcendent, is very transcendent. But another aspect of its nature is that each enlightened being in the universe is a part of that being. It doesn't get its light from that being because every single being in the universe can directly realize its own Buddha nature and manifest the light of enlightenment directly. It's not a hierarchy where you get light from another being. You are that light. You are that realization. So you can stand side by side with the primordial Buddha on a cosmic level and be equally tapped into the same reality. The difference only being that your ability to actualize it and express it in the universe is different. that being expresses it on a cosmic scale throughout time and space, and you're a tiny little source of the exact same luminosity, but just not as capable of actualizing it in the universe to the same extent. So that's the only difference. How much do you actualize that same light? Now, within that being, the primordial Buddha, there are intermediate beings of all different sizes and shapes and flavors. And one of them is a being that we could call the solar Christ or the solar Buddha or the solar Logos. But when I use those terms, they mean kind of pretty much the same thing. And that being is the, in a sense, primordial, enlightened teacher, source, creative agent, divine will for the evolutionary impulse of enlightenment for our solar system. In a sense, you could say that in the same way there's a planetary lineage, there's a solar lineage, and so behind the life and evolution of all forms of life throughout the solar system on subtle and physical dimensions, there is one lineage holder that is sort of like the head of the ashram, you might say, the Adi Solar Logos, the source. And so that's one meaning of the term soul, logos is sometimes when I say, it's kind of shorthand, when I say logos, I'm actually not referring to the universal logos or Christ, I'm referring to the solar logos. So most often if I refer to logos as like a being that I've interacted with, it's the solar logos usually. If I'm more specific and I say the planetary logos, then that's the being has the same function but at the level of the planet. They're the planetary manifestation of the Christ or Buddha or enlightenment principle as the kind of senior lineage holder for the planet. And the planetary logos, or Jagat Guru in Sanskrit, which means world guru, is in a sense both their own source of empowerment and envisioning and creativity, and they're also within a lineage that in relationship to which the solar logos is a senior to them as a source of empowerment and inspiration and initiation.